selling here? Once again, we're at our storage and test facility. Let's see why we're rolling out this issue. The very popular Toyota RAV. As we can see, this is the hybrid version, which means it costs more money, of course. Here's a view from the rear. Pretty nice looking vehicle, although not the most attention-getting styling I've ever seen, but very few SUVs are anyway. Sent it all the way from Toyota headquarters in Texas. We actually have two hybrids to drive, including the second one. We'll talk about this one a little bit later, called the Prime. There are several things we want to do when we get a vehicle, and the first is to check out the headlights and see how they perform in the dark. So we'll do that right now. And these are the LEDs you get with the upgraded model, not the standard headlights. It's dark enough. Let's see what these lights do. Windy out here. And here we have the headlights on a wall 100 feet away. Very bright, but very low. Go to high beam. Looks pretty good now. And here's what the rear view camera looks like in the dark. A lot sharper in person than it does on my cheap handheld camera. I'm not complaining. And here we have the brights on a fence 80 yards away and a building 130 yards away. Reaches the top of the roof, very widespread. Very good, go to low beam. Barely reaches out to the fence line. And I've noticed that the headlights swivel in the same direction you turn the steering wheel, which is great for taking corners. These are the optional headlights you get on the deluxe models. Not the standard headlights. You want more, you got to pay more. This is the upgraded Limited. You get more goodies and have to pay more money. The next thing we want to do is check and make sure there's a spare tire, especially if it's an SUV that's likely to be taken off-road, and especially if it's a hybrid, which rarely comes with a spare tire because there's very little room because of all the room the batteries and hybrid system usually takes up. Well, let's look under here and see what we've got. Well, Shazam, we actually do get a spare tire. Thank you very much. If we get some spare time, we might take this off-roading. Now this vehicle has every safety nanny on the planet. Lane assist, pre-collision system, blind spot monitor, rear cross traffic alert, road sign assist, blah blah blah. The good news is you can turn most of these off, and most will stay off, which I prefer to do because I know how to drive. I don't need any help. The bad news, when you turn these things off, you get all these orange and yellow warning lights on the dash. And I don't have a problem with a warning light letting you know that the system isn't working. I do have a problem being the same color as the important warning lights, like the flat tire warning light and check engine, because it's going to blow up warning light. This is not a good idea, because now when I'm driving, I'm going to train myself to ignore the orange and yellow lights, and if a real warning light comes on, something serious, I'm not going to notice it. These really should be a different color. Not orange and yellow. Not a good idea. If you buy a base RAV, you get a 203 horsepower engine with fuel economy rate 27 in the city, 33 on the highway, and 29 overall. As you can see by the orange cables, this is the hybrid, which gives you a gasoline engine, electric motor in the front, and electric motor in the rear for the rear wheels. Fuel economy jumps up quite a bit on the claim, 41 in the city, 38 on the highway with 40 overall. We'll be taking this out in the real world to see if that's true. As a bonus, you get more horsepower, bumped up to 219 from 203. And that with the CVT transmission and all-wheel drive, you're all ready to go. By the way, for those of you who like to tinker with your own cars by working on them, which is not very likely on a hybrid system, anyway, if you try that, whatever you do, do not touch anything that's orange under the hood. You'll get a nice zapping surprise, and maybe a new hairdo in the process. Don't touch these. Let's take a look at the cabin. Get a nice large glove box. A lot larger if you take out the extremely thick owner's manuals and put them in the back near the spare tire. We did get a very nice design gauge cluster, but at certain angles of the day, certain angles of the sun, that typical Toyota Lexus glare we get on most of their vehicles. You would think they would wise up and do something about this by now, but just something you have to live with. You get normal mode, eco mode, sport mode, trail mode for off-roading if you play with this knob here. It'll tell you in the gauge cluster what you have, the different colors. You get a 7-inch info screen on the base RAV and a deluxe 8-incher here on the more expensive models. A decent storage console between the seats. And what's this? Oh, my virus mask. How's that for an attention getter? We're not supposed to call it the Chinese virus. I made the mistake once, and all the cancel culture swore in my comment section making bad comments. Poor little things. In the meantime, this is a cool mask. Scares the little kids at the grocery store. The climate control system, very simple to use. In EV mode for driving on purely electric, although I haven't tried it and probably never will. And some nice large controls down here under the dash. Decent room in the second row seating, enough for 2 full-size adults. And they do fold down for more cargo area in the rear. I really appreciate the rubber floor mats on this vehicle. A lot easier to clean than carpeting. And in the back area, the gear doesn't slide around as much thanks to this. Yes, I forgot to show that we were looking for the spare tire. This is the type of mat you need on an SUV in the rear to keep things from sliding around. There's nothing is more aggravating than carpeting, which of course we have under here. Of course, yes, they charge extra for this. That's worth it. And speaking of price, the base RAV with nothing on it runs $26,150 plus options. The hybrid starts at $29,675 plus options. And since this has most options, $41,972. Wow. But wait, Toyota hybrid lovers, there's more available. It's called the Toyota RAV Hybrid Prime. That vehicle has a plug-in option that allows you to drive electric only for 42 miles. I think the price starts around $45,000. We do have one in the warehouse, and I'll be testing and driving that next week. So you might want to subscribe so you don't miss that video. And here's the Toyota Prime electric plug-in and what it looks like. Just plug it into a wall socket, charge it up, and you get around 42 miles of electric driving only, and it switches over to hybrid. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. We'll take a look at this vehicle next week after we're done with the standard hybrid we're testing now. Make sure you tune in next week or subscribe. You don't want to miss it. Yep, that means you're getting 2 RAV tests for the price of 1 free. In the meantime, let's take this out now and do some driving since show and tell is over. Get some fuel economy readings too. That's what you're here for, right? Like most hybrids, the power steering feel is kind of lame. You know it's electric, no doubt about that, but that's just the way most of these are, so you just have to live with it. Really nothing to complain about. You'll get used to it. As we do in all of our videos, we're going to take some mild speed humps at 20 miles per hour. See how the suspension performs on impacts. Here comes number 1. A bit of body hump, but nothing serious, pretty smooth. Here comes bump number 2. Number 3. Now the nasty one. Ooh, felt that one. Nothing serious though. This is a short wheelbase vehicle, so what do we expect, right? I usually reserve the turning circle for sports cars, but hey, let's give it a try. This is the normal mode. Lots of body lean. We're not going to be racing any Porsches with this one. This is made for comfort, not street performance. One thing I like about this hybrid RAV, it's actually quicker than the standard RAV, and far more torque too in daily driving. You feel it at the seat of your pants. That's the part I like. I'll worry about the fuel economy later. Let's give it a 0 to 60 run. Your stopwatch out. This vehicle takes up bumps and potholes pretty good too, especially off the pavement. In addition to the acceleration times, I'm also impressed with the real fuel economy. 38.4 and 112 miles, that's mixed commuting, about half city traffic. The other half commuting on the expressway, around 65 miles per hour. Was leaning more towards 41 in the beginning when I was doing mostly city driving, but 38.4 is certainly impressive. There's one problem I had with this vehicle the first day I drove it, and you'll notice it as well. I kept hearing emergency sirens like an ambulance, fire truck, police car. So I pull over, but I don't see the vehicles. And after a while, I wised up and realized the shrieking noise was coming out from the under the hood, the hybrid system. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. And I have very good hearing for high-pitched noises, so maybe you won't hear it, but I certainly do. But once I learned it, it's no big deal, because now I know where it's coming from. But if that's what you hear on the first day you're driving this hybrid RAV, that's probably what it is. We're going to reset the mileage computer to 0, take a highway trip. Two things I've noticed about this vehicle on the freeway. The wind noise is very, very loud compared to some other compact SUVs I've driven. And even though the suspension is smooth on impacts, there's a lot of rumbling noise coming up through the chassis, so it's unusual for a vehicle that weighs 4,400 pounds, which I think is around 500 to 600 pounds more than the standard RAV. But most of that weight has to do with batteries and things, not insulation, so not a surprise. And as you can see by the angle of the sun, the glare is reflecting off the instrument panel, which I cannot read. Toyota, you need to do something about this. It only happens at certain parts of the day, but still. On some other brand of vehicles, it never happens at all. I've turned into some strong headwinds around 10 to 12 miles per hour, causing the vehicle to drag a bit, so this isn't one hell fuel economy. I'd have to wait to do a return trip when the wind's back on me and bump up the figures that way. We're coming to the end of our trip. Let's see what the fuel economy figures say. Like I said, probably going to be a bit lower than expected because of the headwind I ran into, but you never know. Well, like I suspected, we did take a loss of fuel economy because of the wind. Went down from 37 to 33.8, but that's still better than the non-hybrid RAV. It usually gets around 29 to 30 in the same conditions. So we're still ahead as far as fuel economy goes. If we get a chance, we'll take a return trip. We'll take a return trip on the freeway the same way we came. Hopefully fighting less wind and hopefully better fuel economy. We'll find out soon enough. Once again, here we go with the sun's glare reflecting off the gauge cluster again, but never mind that. Let's get the fuel economy reading. It was just under 34 with the wind in front of us and 40.6 with the wind in back of us. That means our freeway average is around 37 to 37.5 mpg, which is pretty close to the 38 claimed on the EPA window sticker. We're going to take this off-road and do some ranch patrolling, but first I got to stop by the old shed, get some supplies, and I know, need to get a roof on this fixed, but I've been saying that for 5 years already. So let's get rolling. All RAVs can be taken off-road if you're careful. The two-wheel drive can do okay if you're light duty. The hybrid system can do it a bit more because of the all-wheel drive, especially if you're running in light sand or snow. But remember, you're basically driving a car platform, so don't do anything crazy. This isn't a Land Rover or a Jeep Wrangler. One advantage of a RAV, very narrow width, allows you to fit on very narrow trails that larger vehicles cannot go. That in turn keeps the paint from getting scratched up from these nasty thorn bushes that we will not be touching. And here's our other ranch cabin, but the windstorm blew it down a long time ago. Not much here to see. I really don't know what the trail setting on this vehicle does. I didn't look it up, but if you engage it and come out to a desert like this, it seems to work pretty good. I didn't have a problem. In any case, ranch patrol duty is over, so we're going to roll back into town and wrap up this video. So what's my take on this Toyota hybrid after a week of driving? As a rule, I don't like hybrids because they usually sacrifice power for economy. Many times you don't get the advertised economy, but they're wising up in the manufacturing end because they're offering us hybrids that have power. This has more power than the standard RAV, and it didn't meet the fuel economy claims, so thumbs up in that regards. And as far as the RAV itself, it's been developed over many, many years. They pretty much got it right. I really don't have any complaints about the vehicle at all. Well, one, let's say the price tag, 41 grand is kind of steep. But it's a Toyota, it's going to run forever.